So this is the reason you're stuck. Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'll be talking about narrative intelligence across Life According to Josh over all of my episodes. Today we're talking about why people are stuck. The term feeling stuck or stuck at work or anything around stuck gets Googled thousands of times every single day. So why do we get stuck? And what is narrative intelligence? So narrative intelligence is the idea that we can navigate through the stories that dictate our behavior, and we can change them, we can become aware of them, we can understand them. And the sooner we do this, the less stuck we can become. Because every single person has a desire. And on the other side of the desire is our desired outcome. But there's something in the middle of that equation that tends to get us stuck. And so this can be hustle culture, like desire plus if I just wake up at 5 a.m., if I can just get the right magic bullet, if I just had enough money, I'd get my desired outcome. You know, desire plus the right marketing strategy, or if I could just get my video to go viral, if my mom would just go to therapy, I'd get my desired outcome. But none of that tends to work for most people because there's thousands of videos online of how to do anything. You can literally Google how to do anything, but we just don't do it. Why? Why do we feel stuck? Again, this is where narrative intelligence comes in, because what happens is we have a pattern wheel that tends to keep us stuck. And so there's a narrative happening. That narrative sort of dictates our thoughts. Those thoughts dictate our feelings. Our feelings dictate our actions. The actions give us our results. And whatever results we get tend to reinforce that original belief, that original narrative that we have. And so, I mean, you can raise your hand if this ever happened to you, but my mom used to constantly say, money doesn't grow on trees. And so this was a narrative that ran deep in me from a very young age. I saw it everywhere. I mean, there's a truth to the fact that clearly we survived, we were fine, we did have enough money. However, it was constantly drilled into me at a very young age that money didn't grow on trees. And so if we use that as a narrative, the narrative of money doesn't grow on trees, you can imagine the type of thoughts I would have. Thoughts like, well, we can't afford this, that's too expensive, we don't have enough money, I better budget a little more for this, right? These are the thoughts that are coming up. So how do I feel about that? I feel like I'm in a lack mindset. I feel like we don't have enough. I feel maybe sad, jealous of other people that have money. And then so what actions do I take? More and more budgeting, breaking down, finding cheaper rents, finding cheaper places. And then what are the results? Results are I still don't have very much money. And then that reinforces my belief that money doesn't grow on trees. And so it's cyclical and tends to keep going over and over again. And you can replace this with anything. You could say with dogs are dangerous, maybe because something happened to someone as a kid. I always love this analogy that a friend of mine, Slava, gave to me, which is like everyone's a kid with a backpack. Inside of our backpack is our paper and our crayons. And every time we get to a new experience, we pull out a little piece of paper, and we pull out our crayons, and we draw a map, and we go, okay, I now know how to navigate this. And then we put it back. And then every time a new experience, we repeat. And then if we run into a similar experience, we pull out our map and go, this is how it's done. If you've ever been in a new job or if you've ever worked with someone who's like, this is the way things are done. And you're like, why? Why are things done this way? It's because we tend to have a narrative that states this is the way things are done. If you have money and you're with someone that doesn't have money, they'll have very different beliefs and very different experiences of how things are done. Same thing if you have someone who has a lot of love in their life and they find relationships really easy to navigate, it's going to be very different narratives and stories for the person that struggles to find a partner. And you'll see they have a desire to find a partner. What do they do in the middle? Constantly dating, apping, thising, going everywhere I can, hustle, get a date, go on the stuff. Desired outcome never seems to happen. So what is the answer to that equation? The answer is desire plus non-resistance equals desired outcome. Whatever you want, if we can just get out of the way, we'll tend to get it. But again, I'll go back to my analogy or my story that my mother gave me of money doesn't grow on trees. If I want money, there's so much evidence around me that I've gathered over the last several decades that have allowed me to understand and see that money doesn't grow on trees. And so no matter how many people come in and tell me, well, this is how you make money, here's all the ways, here's every video, YouTube, how to, all that stuff on how to make money, am I going to believe a single one of them? Gosh, no. Of course I'm not going to, because I've already seen all the evidence and I've piled it up and I've collected it and I've drawn it on my little map and I've been like, well, no, there's no room in here for making money. Here's all the reasons why it's not me. Here's all the reasons why I can't do it. Yet if you ask those same questions to someone who has money, like, here's all the reasons why it does exist and why it is easy. And so what we have to do is somewhere in this pattern loop, we have to interject. We have to jump in and stop it. We can stop it at action. We can stop it at thoughts and feelings. But I believe if we stop it at the narrative, it changes everything. And so if you can start to find out what those limiting beliefs are, if you can go in and find out what the story is running the show, once we shift that, everything changes. Here is how we do that. Because right now, if you're to tell somebody who's maybe scared of dogs, don't worry about it, jump in and start hanging out with dogs, it's probably not going to go over too well. And so how does somebody do it? How does somebody start to overcome? And you'll see a lot of people talking about manifestations, maybe you've read The Secret or something like that, and you tried it for a while and it didn't work. And the reason manifesting doesn't really work that well for so many people is because they just don't buy it. Again, you take somebody like me who didn't have any money. If you take someone like me that didn't have any money and you say, oh, just say that you've got a lot. Say you live in an abundant mindset. Go for it. Sure, I'll say those things. And then I'll look at my bank account and go, well, there's only like $50 in there, but I'm saying I'm a millionaire. I'm saying, right? It becomes really hard to buy it. It's really hard to jump on because I'm still coming from a lack mindset because that narrative's still running. And so I like to look at it like a garden. And if you're going to plant this new plant in there, there's already a ton of weeds in the garden. The weeds are just going to take all the nutrients and just destroy the new plant, no matter how long I try. And after 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to get exhausted and, you're going to fall off. We all just are like, that's enough. I've done this for too long. It doesn't seem to work. And so we need to start to pull those weeds out while we plant new things. That's the key. And how we do this is with something called the decision matrix. You take a look at your limiting belief. And again, I'll use mine as an example. Money doesn't grow on trees. There's not enough money. I don't have enough. Whatever, not enough time. It can be not enough money, not enough friends. I don't know the right people. This doesn't happen for me. Your choice, you write it down. And then next to it, you write probably the more empowering thought. Sometimes it's the exact opposite. I don't have money because I have money, whatever. But it's just whatever's more empowering. So I don't find a lot of power in saying money doesn't grow on trees. I do find a lot of power in things like money seems to come to me easily, or I always seem to have enough, or something like that. And so now that's just a manifestation on its own. Hard to believe if I look at the bank account. So what do? What can you do? Well, now I need to start training my brain to look for evidence in the positive direction, in the more empowering direction. And so I can sit there and go, okay, well, when does money come to me? I have always had a job. I found a job. Whatever. I found a job last week and that job pays me this much per month. That's nice. Great. So you have money. And it's easy. What your brain will do here is like, well, it's not $1 million. Well, it's not this. Well, it's not what I want. Like, right? Your brain's going to do that because it's so trained to do that and has been doing that for so long. So we just need to continue to look for more evidence to keep doing that. A great neuropsychologist out of the UK named Karen Leaf came up with the exact amount of time it takes to create a new neural pathway. Not necessarily a new habit, but a new neural pathway. And it's approximately 63 days. And so if you've ever done anything like this and you gave up after 2 weeks because you're like, well, that didn't work. That's the problem is that, we've grown this little children's map and we've drawn it for so long. We became so attached to it for so long that that's the path we're super comfortable taking. And so now this new path of, let's say money is abundant or dogs are wonderful or, my mother-in-law is my favorite person, whatever it happens to be. You can take a look at this and you can start to look for evidence where this is true. And it's going to be tough at first and your brain's going to do everything it can to go the opposite direction. But I encourage you to stick with it. Sit there and try finding new evidence. Just 2 or 3 pieces. And then you repeat this every single day. You wake up and go, I still don't have any money in my bank account. Money sucks. And you go, okay, maybe money doesn't suck. Maybe it has nothing to do with that. What's the more empowering belief? Money does continue to come to me. And I've seen it continue to come to me. Here's the evidence of where money has continually come to me. And your brain will go, it's not millions of dollars. Shut that down and just keep trying. And try for 63 days. You try for 63 days, you're going to see massive results in the energy shift in your life. You'll start to see more opportunities come to you. You're going to start to see evidence where this is true. And you go, holy crap, like all these things are happening. All these serendipities are going to start to happen in your life. Coincidences are going to start popping up. You're going to run into people. Your brain's going to jump and latch onto other people. You're like, whoa, I haven't talked to that person in a long time. Why am I thinking about them? Oh, right, they're in this business and that helps. I'm going to message them, when you might not have thought about them at all in the last several years because you weren't thinking that way. You were thinking, money doesn't grow on trees, or my mother-in-law is a jerk, or whatever it happens to be, right? And so this is what I encourage you to do. And so let me wrap this back. So the reason you're stuck is because you've got a pattern wheel happening where the story keeps reinforcing your thoughts, feelings, actions, and results, and it just keeps happening. So we want to interject somewhere in there so that you get your desired results by having non-resistance. Because we resist so much, I want money. And then what do? We look for all the evidence where money doesn't exist. That's resistance. I don't have enough money. I don't know the right people. I don't this. It takes too long, whatever. That's all resistance. So how do we remove that resistance? We start looking for evidence in the more empowering side of things. So that's how we can start to unstick ourselves. And once you unstick yourself, once you try that, you'll start to notice shifts, little tiny shifts, even in the first week, second week, third week. Stick with it for 63 days. You'll see massive change in your life. I cannot recommend this enough. And this is Life According to Josh.